Russia is once again tonight being accused of interfering in American domestic affairs. This time, it's the national conversation over gun control, sparked by last week's school shooting in Florida. Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, tells us how the Russians are trying to turn the tragedy to their advantage.
It was just an hour after the Florida school shooting that Twitter erupted with such hashtags as gun control now, gun reform now, AR-15, and Parkland shooting. And we now know that hundreds of such posts came from Twitter accounts suspected of having links to Russia. In fact, the New York Times reports today this Russian social media blitz is part of a far-reaching disinformation campaign that includes conspiracy videos on YouTube, phony interest groups on Facebook, and so-called bots that can drive a Twitter discussion and push it into the mainstream media. Analysts say a divisive subject like gun control is fertile ground for these covert Russian operatives whose goal is to fuel conflict and frustration in America.
What they're trying to do is foment dissension and anger. They're really trying to get Americans to point fingers at one another, to drive wedges, and double down on fissures that exist in our society.
Special counsel Robert Mueller highlighted the problem last week with indictments against 13 Russians for cyber hacking and trying to disrupt the presidential campaign. These Russians are alleged to have covertly organized political rallies in the U.S. Days after the election, Mueller charges, they coordinated one New York rally, quote, to show your support for President-elect Trump, and another called, Trump is not my president. In the case of protesting NFL players, the Russians took their cue from the president's criticism by pushing such hashtags as boycott NFL and stand for our anthem, as well as take a knee. After the Russian bots whipped up gun control sentiment in the wake of the Florida shooting, they moved on to the hashtag false flag, pushing an outlandish conspiracy theory that students had rehearsed their actions in advance and the tragedy never happened. A year of heavy media coverage fostered the impression that Russian hackers were mainly interested in putting Donald Trump in the White House. It's now clear that Russian propaganda and disinformation are a constant fact of life, even, or perhaps especially, when Americans are being killed. Brett?
Howie, thanks.